Hello, my name is James, and today I am going to be giving a lesson on understanding the Ielts scoring system. Um, just before we get started, if anybody is watching, could you let me know if you can hear me clearly or if I need to turn the volume up or anything like that? Um, just now, we are live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. So during the live stream today, if you've got any questions, just write them in the comments and I will answer them as quickly as possible. So we've got a message here. We've got Layla saying, "Hi, Teacher James." Hi, Layla. I hope you are well today. Well, there's her next comment. I hope you are doing well. I am doing very well today. It is Friday. The weekend is coming soon. So yeah, I'm doing quite well. Um, so during the live stream, if there is anything you want to ask, please do so. And I will try to answer your questions as best I can. So who else do we have here? This is Pallavi. Hello, Teacher James. How are you? Yes, Pallavi, I am very good today. I'm feeling very energized and looking forward to the weekend. So before we start with the lesson, folks, what are your plans for the weekend? Are you going to do something? Are you going to travel, going to study? Or maybe you are going to do something else. So during today's lesson, if you've got any plans for the weekend, write them in the comments and we can talk about them later today. So today's topic is going to be understanding the Ielts scoring system. We've got Eunice in as well. Hello, Eunice. So we're going to be talking about understanding the Ielts scoring system. So a lot of different English tests have different scoring systems, and it can be a little bit confusing. I know, for example, the IBT TOEFL exam, for example, they score out of 120. So each of the four disciplines, speaking, listening, reading, and writing, each get a maximum of 30 points. And that makes up your total of 120. The IELTS scoring system is a little bit different. It is done on a band graded system. So I'm going to explain that today. And we're just going to talk about the types of grading for each part of the IELTS test. And then at the end of today's class, I am going to be talking a little bit about required entry scores. So there's a lot of different reasons people study IELTS, some to go to university, some of them to work in a different country or get nationality. So we'll look at some of the kind of entry requirements. So before we do this, we've got some comments in here. Layla's saying, this weekend I have to learn and study a new skill for my job. Very good. Always good to continue learning. And you also said you'll be spending some time with your family this weekend. Excellent. I think I'll be doing the same this weekend. I'm planning to go on a short hike and then probably spend some time with my family. Eunice, so he has you have a presentation tomorrow. you would like to learn about how to make presentations in English. Well, that is an excellent idea for another live stream, and that's something I could definitely do in the future. Um, I have some useful materials on making presentations and some useful language that you can use for making presentations, Eunice. So, yeah, that's something I could definitely do in the future. However, making a presentation tomorrow, I think I don't know if we can have enough time to do that today. If we have some time at the end of today's live stream, I can maybe give you some pointers to help you with your presentation tomorrow. Um, Here in Saudi Arabia, the weekend is Friday and Saturday. Okay. So, again, depending on which part of the world you live in, the weekends fall in different places. So, a lot of countries would be Saturday and Sunday. For Layla in Saudi Arabia, it's Friday and Saturday. So, Layla is already halfway through her weekend. Okay. All right. Let's go on to talk about the IELTS scoring system. So, the first thing we're going to look at is the idea of the band scoring system. So, in this system, there are 10 full band scores that run from 0 to 9. So you can also get a half band score as well. So 6.5 or 8.5 or 2.5. So there's a very, very wide range of scores that you can get in the IELTS exam. And the higher your band score, the higher your English ability. And it just simply means the better you have done on the test. So let's think about this scoring system. You will receive a score for each of the 4 disciplines in the test. So we have reading, writing, listening, and speaking. For each of those disciplines, you get a band score with the maximum being 9. Those scores are then divided by 4 and you get your overall band score. So I'll give you an example of this. So we've got 3 students here, student A, B, and C. We can see they've got some different abilities, different strong points and different weak points. So student A here, they got 6.5 for listening and reading, 5 for writing, 7 for speaking. So their average score would be 6.25, but there is no band for this score. In this case, it would be rounded up to 6.5. Again, student B, 4 in the listening, 3.5 in the reading, 4 in the writing, 4 in the speaking. Their average score would be 3.875. This would be rounded up to 4. Student C, a little bit different, 7.5, 7, 8, and 8. The score here is 7.625. This would be rounded down to 7.5, where it is closer. So this kind of gives you a general idea of how your final band score is calculated. It takes the scores from each of the 4 different parts of the exam, gives you an average, and that is your band score. So let's see here. A few more comments have come in here. We've got, which the band most of the students usually get. That's a good question. And it's not really about which band you get, because a lot of people are aiming for different bands. I'm going to be explaining this a little bit more towards the end of today's class, but I'll give you some examples. Um, let's say that you are planning to go to high school in the UK and you're going to be entering grade 4, so the beginning of high school. You would require a band score of 4.5. So that's what you would be aiming for. You find the band score that you need and you aim for that and try to get that score. If you are applying for a university in an English speaking country, you're probably going to need a band score of around 6 or 7. So again, the students are going to be aiming for that band score. So I think any band score which is from about 6 and above, well, probably 6 and 7, you would be a good user of English. Above 7, you are going to be an excellent user of English. So answering this question, what they usually get, is quite a difficult question. It really depends on what the students are aiming for in the first place. So it's more about whether they achieve their goals rather than what people get. But if I was to say what an average score would be, I think an average score would be around 6. I think 6 is probably what most people would be getting in the IELTS exam. So Pallavi has asked, what is band score? So basically, the band score is just the scoring system that they use for IELTS. It goes from 0 being the worst score to 9 being the best score. And so whichever band you are in shows your ability. So if you've got a band 9, that's very good. 8.5, very good. Band 8, still very good. And it goes down with that. So a band score is just simply the level you are at. There are lots of different bands: 9, 8.5, 8, 7.5, 7. Those are the bands. So that's what we mean by band score. We've got a few other people joining as well. Very good. We've got Lavanya. Hello, Lavanya. Very nice to see you today. So that's what the band score is in the IELTS test, and that is the basic scoring system. So each discipline, you can get a different type of band score. So in listening and reading, it's very, very simple. The scoring system is just taking your raw score. So in the listening and the reading, the exam will have 40 questions. So you can get 40 points as your maximum score. So in the listening exam, if you score 39 or 40 points in the listening, you get a band 9. If you get 37 to 38, you would get 8.5. 35 to 36 would be 8, and so on. So it's quite simple in the listening and the reading sections because it's quite clear. Depending on how many questions you get correct is what your score is. And then obviously it goes below 4.5, but I just stopped here because I didn't have any space on my slide to write any more. But yeah, this is how you get your score on the listening section of the exam. So yeah, this is a good question here. What is the worst score in IELTS? The worst score is 0. And a 0 score is given if you book your test and you don't go. Basically, if you book your test and you go and you try and answer some of the questions, I think the worst score is probably going to be a 1, but you would have to be really, really quite bad to get a score of 1. But yeah, the worst possible score is 0. However, as long as you go to the test, you are not going to score a 0. Um, the academic reading and the general training reading are a little bit different. The academic reading has this scoring system here, so it is a little bit less strict than the general training reading. General training, you can only get a band 9 if you get a perfect score. Um, so yeah. Um, General training and academic reading have slightly different ways that you can score. As I said, the general training reading is a little bit more strict. If you get any wrong, your band score goes down. So, another question came up here based on your experience. Which section is the hardest ones and students usually fail at it? Well, this is a good question. And it really depends on, first of all, which country you come from. So I'll give you some examples. If you've ever met students that come from places like the Netherlands or Denmark or Germany, their speaking scores are going to be great. And they probably won't find the speaking very difficult because they have studied speaking first in school. However, if you go to some Asian countries where speaking isn't taught in school as much and they are more geared towards teaching reading and grammar, they're probably going to find the reading section easier and maybe the speaking section more difficult. So, this is a great question, Layla, because it really depends a lot on what abilities you have before you start studying for the test. Generally, I find a lot of people find the speaking part of the test a little bit more difficult because it's slightly different. It's face to face with another person, and some people get really nervous before they take the speaking test. So I think probably just slightly, I would say people find the speaking most difficult. Um, some people have spoken to me as well about the writing part, and they find that difficult because of the time constraints. They only have 20 minutes for the first writing and 40 for the second, and they can find that a little bit difficult as well. So, yeah, I don't think there is such a thing as a hardest one or one that usually people usually fail at, but it really depends on your skills before you take that test. If you're good at speaking, that's probably going to be easier. If you're good at writing or good at grammar and reading, that would be easier. Um, so here's a question. Could you please tell us the equivalent of band score to European levels A1? Yeah, this would be if we want to do it this way, band 9 would be A plus. I think band 8 to 8.5 would be A. 7 to 7.5 would be like B plus, B, C plus, C. I think that's the best way to look at it. And is 7.5 sufficient to have for 7.5 is sufficient for most purposes, Eunice. If you have a score of 7.5 in the Ielts test, you could get immigration status in the UK. Australia, New Zealand. You could attend undergraduate programs at Harvard University, at some, I'm not sure about Oxford, but certainly at some British universities. So a score of 7.5 in the Ielts is excellent. If you get a 7.5, it serves a lot of purposes. I will explain a little bit later again about some of the requirements, and I'll give you some examples. Yeah. So we've got somebody here. Yeah. The perfect score is 40. That is for reading and for listening. So for reading and listening, you have 40 questions. If you get 40 correct, your band score would be 9. So, yeah, for reading and listening, the perfect score is 40. Well, but 39 also would get you a perfect band score of 9. So, the listening and the reading is quite straightforward. However, when it comes to grading the speaking, it's much more complex. In the speaking exam, you will be graded on 4 different things: your fluency and coherence. So that's basically about how you sound. If you're speaking fluently, you are not pausing, you are not going and coherence is joining your ideas together. So maybe using time markers or using words like however and things that kind of join your ideas together. You're also graded on your lexical resource. This is your vocabulary, how much vocabulary you use, the difficulty level of the vocabulary that you use as well. You're also graded on your grammatical range and accuracy. So, are you using correct grammar tenses? Are you using them correctly? And finally, you are graded on your pronunciation. Is your pronunciation clear and easy to understand? Now, some students ask me, well, does my pronunciation have to be perfect? Well, what do they mean by perfect? So you don't have to sound exactly like someone from the UK or someone from America. No, there's no perfect pronunciation. Um, as long as we can be understood clearly and we pronounce the consonants especially clearly, you can still get a perfect score in pronunciation. Sorry, another question came in here. I still don't. So I think Pallavi, you're having a little bit of difficulty understanding the band system. So if we go back to this again, if we try to make this a little bit simpler, this is very good. Band 9, 8.5 is like A plus. This is like A. This is like, oh, sorry, this is like A, maybe B plus. So just think about each band as a lowering level. If we start at A plus and we keep going down until we get to F. So there's not, how many marks is the I? There's no marks in the test. The only 2 parts that have marks are the reading and the listening, but those marks are changed into a band. So hold on a second here. When I come to explain the speaking score, you might get a better idea of this. Now, we've got another question here. Could you please simplify lexical resource more? Certainly. So, lexical resource is simply about the vocabulary that you use. So, if you are doing the speaking test and you're always using very simple vocabulary, or maybe you repeat the words a lot. For example, yesterday I went to the store. It was good. I like buying clothes. It is very good. I went to a good restaurant. So there I'm showing limited lexical resource. I'm repeating the word good, good, good. And I'm kind of showing the examiner that I don't have a lot of vocabulary. However, if I was to say, yesterday I went um, shopping and it was very good. I went to an excellent restaurant and the food was amazing. So there we go. I've used three words meaning the same thing, and that shows the examiner that I have a better vocabulary. So lexical resource is really about how much vocabulary you have and the difficulty level of the vocabulary that you're using. Again, if your vocabulary is all very simple, you probably won't get a high score here. However, if you're using some more difficult vocabulary, that could help. So I hope that's answered your question. Um, Grace has said here the speaking component accents don't matter, right? Yes, they do not matter as long as the examiner understands our points. That is correct, Grace. So you are not going to be scored lower or higher for any type of accent that you have. However, if your pronunciation is unclear, then you would be marked down. But as long as your accent is clear and easy to understand, the accent will not matter. So I have spoken to students from all over the world with a variety of different accents, and I have no problems understanding them. So don't worry about your accent as long as it's clear. If there's some parts that you think in your pronunciation that are maybe unclear, work on the pronunciation. But do not try to change your accent because you think you're going to get higher scores. It doesn't matter. As long as your pronunciation is clear, the accent doesn't matter so much. Excellent question there, Grace. So we had what is again, I answered this a little bit earlier. Okay. Is it good to memorize my IELTS answers? No, it is not good to memorize your IELTS answers. If you're for a start, it it is impossible to memorize the thousands and thousands of possible answers that could come up on the test. There are so many different questions that could come up. You cannot memorize them all. Secondly, if you memorize answers, you're going to be recalling that information from here. And you're going to be recalling it like a computer recalls. And then when you speak that answer, it's going to sound very unnatural. It's not going to sound like you have just thought of that. It's not going to sound casual. It's not going to sound conversational. So please do not memorize your IELTS answers. The better thing to do is practice everyday English, everyday conversations, increase your fluency, increase your lexical resource, and then you won't have to worry about memorizing answers because you will understand and you will be able to speak more freely. Um, okay. So, what is the best way to develop our vocabulary in case the time for studying is not long enough? So, here's a question I hear so often. I don't have enough time. How can I cram in as much information as possible? Well, Leila, I wish I had an easy answer for you, but there's not an easy answer for this. Developing vocabulary takes time. Now, there are some useful vocabulary parts that you could learn, especially when it comes to writing. Things like learning the words however, although, these kind of things that can help you join sentences together. But there's not a short fix for vocabulary. Personally, for me, I think the best way to learn vocabulary is by reading newspapers, reading articles, um, reading books, a wide variety of topics, a wide variety of subjects is the best way to learn a wide variety of vocabulary. So I think there's not a quick way to do that. There's probably some keywords that you could learn to help you in the speaking or writing test, but building your vocabulary is something that takes time. It could be 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years. It's something that you build slowly and slowly. So yeah, I think if you don't have enough time to study, you may have a little bit of a struggle here for this. Um, and in the IELTS test, we need more advanced vocabulary. Yes, for some parts you do. Um, if you're doing the academic writing test, for example, um, they'll be asking you to write on an academic topic. You cannot write on an academic topic without using some advanced vocabulary. Similarly, in the speaking test, part 3 of the speaking test will be going into detail on a specific subject. You need some advanced vocabulary to be able to talk about that subject effectively. Also, in the listening and the reading parts, you will be expected to understand more advanced vocabulary. There will be academic texts. There will be some listening that uses difficult topics. So, yeah, you are you will need some advanced vocabulary if you're looking to get a higher score. If you're looking at the band 7, 8, and 9, you definitely need a more advanced vocabulary. For bands 4, 5, and 6, you could probably get away with a basic vocabulary, but I think that is something that you should work on if you're aiming for a high score. And you're welcome for that, Pallavi. So these are the 4 grading areas for the speaking test. And again, the band score for your speaking test is worked out. You get a score out of 9 for your fluency and cohesion, a score for your lexical resource, your score for your grammar and your pronunciation, and then you get your average score, which is made into your band score. So again, I've given 3 examples. So if we look here, pronunciation's good, grammar's not bad, vocabulary's quite good, struggled a bit with fluency. So here the fluency is very good, but maybe not a lot of vocabulary. So again, this shows how we can make up this final band score for your speaking part of the test. Oh, this is an excellent question that's just come up here. Do you think if we know more about synonyms of one word, that will help us avoid repeating ourselves? Yes, I think it is very important to learn synonyms about words. If we just keep saying something is very good, oh, it's very good, it's very good, it makes us sound limited. But if something is very good, and then it's amazing, and then it's superb, and then it's awesome, and then it's excellent, that is showing a good diversity of your vocabulary. um, Again, let's choose another word. Let me think. Oh, angry. Well, I was angry. Okay. I was furious. I was very angry. I was exasperated. So synonyms are a great way. Now, Layla, I think you asked that a way to develop your vocabulary quickly. Synonyms is one way that you can do this because in your mind, you already have a space for that word. Your mind can organize that word beside the new word. So, yes, synonyms are a good way to increase your vocabulary. And this is really important to help you avoiding repeating yourself. If you keep using the same word, now using the same word twice is not a problem. But when you're using it three or four or five times to describe something, it really shows there is a limit to your vocabulary. Um, okay, so that's the speaking. Now, with the writing, it's quite similar in a way to the way speaking is graded. You have four different things that you are graded on. We'll notice two of them are the same: lexical resource and grammar. However, you also have task achievement. That means, did you complete the task? Did you follow the instructions? And was your answer relevant to the question that was asked? So that's the first thing: task achievement. Coherence and cohesion. So, this is basically about developing an argument and joining that argument together in a way that is easy to understand and easy to read. Again, we need to show some diverse vocabulary when we write, and our grammatical range has to be good. We have to use a variety of different grammar tenses. We have to use some different grammatical features. Again, things like words joining sentences, and, but, however, since. These are all good ways that we can increase our grammatical range. And again, you get your band score based on these four aspects. So here we have done poorly on answering the questions. It's not bad on coherence, not bad on your vocabulary, and okay on the grammar. We would add those scores together, and then we get our band score. So basically, that's about how we are scoring. Um, and earlier on, somebody asked about, who asked this question? What was this? Ah, okay. So Eunice asked here, is 7.5 sufficient for any purpose? Well, as I explained before, it very well could be. It really depends on what your purpose is in the Ielts test. So you need to know what score is required for you. So, first of all, we have to think about, what do you need an IELTS score for? Do your research, find out exactly what you need, and then always aim higher. If you're applying for a job in the USA and it says you need a score of 6.5, aim for 7 or aim for 7.5. Always aim higher. Then, if you don't achieve your goal, you've still probably got the score that you need. So, before we go on and give some examples, a few other questions. Yeah, as soon as you've decided to take the exam, you should begin studying English extensively. Now, I would hope before you have even decided to study the IELTS exam, hopefully you've been studying English before then, because the IELTS exam is not simple. It's something that requires a lot of basic English skills, but also requires some more advanced skills as well. So, if you have decided to take the IELTS exam, you should be studying immediately. I need an effective strategy to enhance my vocabulary skills. Okay, create a plan for that. So that's something we could look at in a further video, Eunice. We could be looking at strategies to increase our vocabulary. We'll just take a note of this. In fact, I think that will be on the chat. I can look later. What books, videos, and podcasts can help. Now, this is a great thing that you've brought up here about the podcasts, because there's so many of them these days, and they are very specific to whichever topic you require. So let's say your job is in international trade and you're looking for some vocabulary in international trade. Well, if you go on and watch BBC World News, you're going to see a lot of trade stories. So there's a podcast that we could get related to that. So it's really about doing your research about what you need and then finding those resources. We are lucky in this day and age that we can just click on a mouse and we can find resources everywhere. So, yeah, this is something we can look at in another video. But what I want to do is just give some examples here. Now, I got some of these examples from the British Council website, and it basically gives you some requirements, scores that you need. So, UK visa requirements vary. The highest IELTS score you will need is 7. So if you're applying for a British visa, you will never need higher than a score of 7, which is a good user. The lowest is 4. For citizenship, you will need a score of 4 in speaking and listening. So that gives you a kind of idea of some requirements in the UK. In Australia, it depends on your visa type, but you will need an IELTS score of between 4.5 and 8. The minimum score for immigration is 6. So again, this kind of gives you some ideas. Again, if you want to study at the University of St Andrews in Scotland, you will need an IELTS score of 6.5. To study at Harvard in the US, you will need an IELTS score of 7. For some other things, if you're of school age, you can get a place at schools in the UK with an IELTS score of 4.5 or 6 if you're going to sixth form college. So IELTS is accepted all around the world, from MIT to the University of Cape Town. As I said before, do your research, because each institution is a little bit different. So, yeah, do your research, find out exactly what they would require. Also, it's not only to work in a foreign country. Some companies that deal with foreign clients, even though they're not in an English speaking country, still require an IELTS score. So this one here is actually in Australia. To work for them, you need a score of 7. But many employers in non English speaking countries also require you to be proficient in English and require an IELTS score. So, some examples include the Royal Academy of Art at The Hague, Bank Indonesia in Jakarta, the Jordan Institution for Standards and Metrology in Amman, and many, many other companies around the world. They want you to be proficient in English, especially if that's part of your job when you're speaking to people from many different countries. So it's not only useful for studying or working or even immigrating um, to a foreign country, it's also used in non English speaking countries. Um, Also, some non English speaking countries will accept the IELTS as a way to enter into certain university programs as well. So, that is something you should bear in mind. Um, let's have a look at our questions coming up here. Are there any classes related to support not making spelling mistakes on this channel? Now, Layla, not yet. This is a fairly new channel. We are still working on content, but that is certainly something we would be considering in the future, especially in the writing part of the IELTS exam. Spelling is so important. It can also be important in the reading section if you're asked to type in the answer as well. So, yeah, we don't have anything at the moment, but this is something that we will be looking at in the future, looking at common spelling mistakes and learning some rules that we can follow that can maybe help spelling. Now, English is not a simple language. English has taken words from almost every language in the world, which means there's not really one set spelling. So I'll give you an example of this. The word restaurant comes from French. The spelling is it's a French spelling, and we use the same spelling in English. It doesn't look like any other word in English. So sometimes spelling in English can be really, really tough because there are so many words from many different countries. There are German words, Spanish words, there are Japanese words. There's so many different words. So spelling is a difficult thing. But that is something we will be looking at in the coming weeks and months when we develop more content for the channel. So, I've kind of covered everything that I want to cover about the IELTS test today. So, I thought what I would do is just kind of leave the end of the stream today to answer any questions that you have, any questions about what I have talked about today, or if you have any general questions about IELTS or any more general questions about English, I will be happy to stick around and answer those questions. So, if anybody wants to ask anything, write it into the chat just now, and I will answer those questions. Oh, We've got, who's this? Julia saying, Julio saying hi. Hi, Julio. What have we got here? The problem with me yet, less vocabulary and spelling. Yeah, I think a lot of people have the same problem. Reading also helps your spelling as well. The more you read, the more the words sink into your brain and you get used to that spelling. I think that's how many native speakers learn to spell. They read when they were young, those words became normal, and they can naturally spell them. So the more you read, the more new words you learn, the more you try to use those words. So that's where writing can be important as well. If you read an article, take 5 minutes and write 5 or 6 sentences about that article. Use some of the words from that article. That's another way that can help you develop your vocabulary and help your spelling as well. If anybody else has any other questions. Now, somebody was talking about presentations earlier on. Who was that? Eunice, you had a presentation. Okay. So I think I can answer some parts of that. The key is reading and reading and reading. Yes, Layla, the key is reading and reading and reading. Very good. So I suppose for presentations, some useful kind of things that we could do. If it's a formal presentation, one thing we want to start with is introductions. Introducing yourself with your name, introducing your position, introducing your company. So for a formal presentation, especially if it's to another company, we would start. So hello, my name is Eunice. I am the development manager for Cisco Systems. So nice and clear opening in your presentation. Also, you probably want to introduce what you're going to be speaking about in your presentation. So take just a few minutes to, or even just 1 minute to talk about the contents of your presentation. Things like, today I'm going to be talking about this. I will talk about this first, and then I will. So try to give a breakdown of what you're going to be talking about. When you're moving between sections, there are some useful phrases you could use. Things like, let's move on to the second topic today, or I am now going to talk about this topic. So that's good, and it kind of gives people the idea that this part of the presentation's finished. I'm moving on to a new part. At the end of your presentation, it's always a good idea to give a brief summary. So we could say, so these were the main points of my presentation, and maybe just a quick summary. Always thank the people for listening, and then invite questions at the end. So yeah, thanks for listening today, everyone. If you have any questions, you can ask them now. So I suppose they're just some short tips that I could give you for that, Eunice. But maybe this is something we could look at in more detail in a future video: presentation techniques and presentation language. But maybe some of those things that I have explained there might help you tomorrow. But it's a bit short notice. Anna Marie, thanks a lot. James and Robin for the information. We are looking forward to get familiar with the style of questions. Excellent question, Anna Marie. I will be doing a live stream probably on Monday. I'll be doing another live stream over the weekend, but on Monday, I'm planning to do a live stream on the questions for IELTS speaking part 1. So, Anna Marie, if you tune in to that live stream, we will be looking at those types of questions. And also, I will be giving some sample answers and showing you some of the good things that can help increase your score and some of the things that you should avoid doing. So, yes, Anna Marie, that will be coming very, very soon. Okay, I will be waiting on the next live stream. I look forward to seeing you there. Lavanya, you are very welcome. And what have we got? Now, the next live stream, I think, will be around the same time. I'm planning to do one on Sunday around this time. But I will put a message in the WhatsApp group about 1 hour before I go live, but it will be around the same time. Pallavi, you are very welcome. I look forward to seeing you in another stream. Please remember, everyone, to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Grace, you are very welcome. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their Friday. And remembering our information from earlier on, it's already the weekend in Saudi Arabia. So if you are in Saudi Arabia, enjoy the rest of your weekend. If you are in some other countries around the world when the weekend starts tomorrow, I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. So we're going to finish the live stream just now. It's been great to have so much good interaction in the comments section. Thank you very much, everybody, for your input today. There's been some great questions, and I look forward to seeing you all again in a future stream. Thanks, everyone, and bye for now.